In this tutorial, I try to squeeze in Adho Mukha Svanasana, Urdva Mukha Svanasana, Chaturanga, and also Vinyasa challenge modifications and variation with precise description. So let's start in Adho Mukha Svanasana. You should always start from child pose with the hands in front of you, and after you come up you shouldn't change the distance between the palms and the feet. All of us has its own distance. Then it's as I do it, I always do it with the legs hip wide apart because it's safer for the sacrum. And also there is nothing wrong if you bend a little bit your knee. It's better than overextend it. And you can do a lot of modification and variation better with a little bit bended knee. And now let's see the variation. First we will do waves with our body. It's very important that you feel the power of your bone, you rooting through your bones, and your legs and your arms moving parallel, keeping the joints strong. And make little waves with your spine. Just feel that you are not keeping yourself only from the muscles, but you use your bone energy. You can do the waves in both directions. For next, we will do pelvic circles. So as you make a little circles or little 8 shape with your pelvic, meantime intermittently bend your knee as well. It's really releasing blockage in the pelvic area, in the lower back area. The next variation is a shoulder opening, forearm on the ground, parallel with each other. Press your upper arm inside the shoulder socket and try to bring your head behind your upper arm. And also bring the weight towards the leg, and you can bend a little bit the legs. And the next one is very easy modification, the hips remaining in line, and just grab for. Now let's continue with the hip opening sequence. So slowly bring the weight to one leg and raise the other leg. See that you are lifting your leg from the psoas muscle, and slowly you can bend your leg, heels close to the buttock, and shoulder remains in line, but a little bit the hip should be the two hip bone perpendicular to the floor. After you remain here a few seconds, you can go directly to Kamadkara asana. And in Kamadkara asana, I show you a variation because I'm a very fan of strengthening between the yoga asanas as well. I show you a variation. Here you can see on the picture where you can really strengthen each and every part of your woman body. And slowly come back, and let's prepare for another variation for jumping. Here you raise one leg up to the sky, and with the other leg you really try to jump like you engaging all your feet muscles. And with the upper leg try to jump from the hip area, so at the same time you're strengthening your Muladhara chakra, the hips, and also the feet, the psoas muscles, which is very important. Now I show you the next jumping type. Here it's very important that all the time you keep the hands very strong and straight, and as you jumping forward, you jump with the energy of your Muladhara or the pelvic and leg energy, and as you jump back, you jumping with the power of your chest and upper body. Now let's continue with a core strengthening exercise. It's very good for the abdomen and for the whole core. You start to lifting one leg, and after with an exhalation you are coming to plank pose and bringing close the knee to the elbow. Here you can do one elbow or you can do both elbows with a little bit of spine rotation and abdominal rotation. It completely depends on you how you prefer. I found it a very good core strengthening exercise, and usually practitioners like it a lot. Now let's continue with the hip rotation. Usually I do this at the beginning of the class to warm up the hip joints. And if for somebody it's difficult, then they can do in cat-cow position as well. What's important that you make a big circle with your knee, but if you want, then you can do it with straight leg as well, then it's more. And now let's continue with the balancing. Balancing is extremely good because it shows you how to place, how to align your hip muscles, and also how straight your legs, how strong your legs should be. You can do first just lift opposite legs and hands, and when you are more advanced, then you can place your hands next to the hip, lift your leg, and after grab your ankle. You have to practice it for a long time. Then next, let's see one of my favorite version, when you place two bricks diagonal to the wall and you come up to Adho Mukha asana. Legs can be bended a little bit. This variation is great because if you have any prolapse or organ prolapse or with uterus prolapse or dislocation, then it can really help with it a lot if you practice regularly. And now let's see a restorative version. You remain at the same place like in the last version, but the brick is not under your feet, but you use one brick under your forehead, and this you can do for 1-2 minutes at least. It's very refreshing for the mind. It's a restorative position. And in a sequence, right after that, you can do a hip opening with the wall when you are walking back to the wall, but only as long as your upper leg doesn't turn to the side. Try to push the ball of your feet away from the wall. It's at the same time lengthening, stretching, and strengthening exercise. I highly recommend it. And next, let's continue with Urdva Mukha Svanasana. In Urdva Mukha Svanasana is different from Cobra, and that your thighs and the pubic bone, the hips, are off from the floor, and you can do in two ways. First way, flexing the toes, and the second, the more difficult way, is pointing the toes. Or you can raise one leg, or you can bend one leg. I prefer flexing the toes because it's more weight on the legs. If you're pointing the toes, then it's more weight on the spine. Here you can see a modification. With the modification, we use bricks, which makes easier the asana, and try to pull your chest forward, sternum up. And now let's continue with Chaturanga. In Chaturanga, you really have to have the power of your upper and the lower body as well. And if you are not prepared, then first you can do it with the belt. You place the belt should be a little bit longer than shoulder width, and after you place the belt above your elbow. Slowly come back in to the position to plank pose, and slowly lower your legs and your upper body, and see that the belt is below your breast. Don't push against your breast, only below your breast. See that you're keeping your forearm perpendicular to the floor, and you will see that it will make much easier the asana. And lastly, I would like to show you a vinyasa challenge which I learned in Mysore. It's a great way in 2-3 minutes you can achieve a great strength of the body. Ladies can do as the beginning warming up exercise. You can do like 10-15. Men's can do even 30-40, and like in 2-3 minutes you can achieve a great strength. And it warms up all the muscles and of the body, the joints, and the spine. I highly recommend you to try it.